What's up, guys? It's me again, Christian Rodriguez, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about two laws in the 48 Laws of Power. These aren't the most um, popular laws in the book. Like when people talk about this book, they talk about never outshine the master, um, avoid the unhappy and unlucky. Which these are great laws to know. Crush your enemy totally, right? They talk about these laws, but the two laws I'm going to talk about today are very useful laws, and I think a lot of people misinterpret them or they don't fully understand them, right? Because I remember the first time I read this book, I had trouble understanding it. I kind of like glossed over these laws. I didn't understand them. I had to actually like go out of my way and study it, even ask ChatGPT like, how do I understand this law? The second time I read it, right? And the first of the two laws I'm going to talk about today is disarm and infuriate. Law 44, disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect, right? And I'll read the first sentence. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it's kind of long, but the mirror reflects reality, but it also is the perfect tool for deception. When you mirror your enemies, you're doing exactly as they do. They cannot figure out your strategy, right? That's just the first sentence, right? But long story short of what Robert Greene means by this is that the mirror the mirror can act as a tool to make the other person feel like you understand them, you're on the same side as them, or it can also infuriate the other person, right? Say they try to insult you or they're acting condescending, you can mirror their behavior back at them, and it could either make them calm down, right? Make them realize, okay, maybe I should not mess with this guy. Or two, it makes them infuriated, right? It makes them angry because they know that their attempt failed, right? So he describes this in like four versions of it, right? And this is something that I had to like read a few times. I had to ask ChatGPT, right? Because there's not just one version of the mirror effect, right? There's what? There's four. Yeah, there's four versions of the mirror effect, right? So the first version of the mirror effect is a neutralizing effect, right? And the neutralizing effect is against some sort of aggressive opponent, right? Damn, it's getting hot in here. But yeah, it's used for like an aggressive opponent, someone who's acting lashing out, right? Maybe they're trying to win with dominance, right? Um they're trying to dominate, or they have a high ego, and they usually win with intimidation dominance, right? The neutralizing effect makes it in a way that they're they're acting ridiculous, right? Let me see. So the tactic, right? It has like a mocking and infuriating effect, right? So it makes a person feel like they're being mocked, and it can make them also feel like they're acting immature, right? So like something like this is like, obviously, this could be good to use to neutralize like an opponent, right? Someone who's like, it's usually someone who's more, maybe someone who's acting like a bully, something like that, right? Or it could be, and the thing is, you got to use this with your own discretion. Like, I'm not gonna say all of this stuff works 100%, but it's good to just unsettle your opponent, right? Because it's gonna make them feel off balance when you use that one. And okay, so the next one is the narcissist effect. Now, the narcissist effect is now more about seduction, persuasion, right? So obviously, you can use this for seduction, right? But you could also use this for persuasion. How do you use that, right? So I could give you an example of it. Best way I could describe it. So you basically make the first person feel like everything they like, their interests, the stuff that they do is very interesting. You make them talk about themselves, right? Maybe you know something about them, right? Maybe you know about their culture. You know something about You talk about something that really resonates with them and it makes them feel important, right? So I remember when I worked in sales, I um I I remember I ran into there was this girl. It was a B2C sales job. So there was this girl and she had an accent. So I asked her, I'm like, "Oh, where are you from?" And she's like, I'm from Vietnam." And I remember I had a trip in Vietnam. So I started talking about, "Oh, wow, like I really love Vietnam. Vietnam was a great place. Love the food." I knew specific. I remember being in Saigon. I remember going to District 3, I think. The Bentek Market. Um, I love the food, the banh mi. I talked about stuff like that, and most people don't really know about Vietnam, so it made her feel important. She ended up doing the sale, right? And she ended up making like a good contribution because it was like a charity, so she ended up doing a big contribution that I didn't expect that she was going to do. Why? Because I think it's because I used a narcissist effect, right? I kind of reminded her of something that of like I made her feel like I understood her world. That's really what the narcissist effect is. All right. And you don't have to you could use this in sales, you could also use this in seduction, right? And the next effect is the moral effect, right? This one is this one can piss someone off, right? Like the neutralizing one can piss someone off because you're kind of making them you're kind of reminding them that they're acting irrational. So they have similarities, right? But it's usually the neutralizing is against someone who's aggressive. The moral effect is more against someone who's trying to manipulate you to do something, right? Maybe you asked them, "Hey, can we go to they maybe they invite I'll give you an example. So I remember I had this one friend. I'm not going to mention any names, but I remember I had this one friend once, and I remember I was serious in my self improvement journey. I didn't want to drink anymore. I didn't really want to go to bars. I was like, I don't really want to spend my Saturdays going to. I don't want to spend my weekends going to bars. Like I'm just sick of bars. And I remember he invited me. He's like, "Oh, I'm having a birthday bar crawl, right?" And instead of like making up, because most people will, what they'll do is they'll manufacture some sort of excuse. They'll say, "I can't because I have my cousin's sister's boyfriend's wedding um going on that day, and I can't make it." Like they'll make up some poor excuse. I didn't feel like doing that, so I straight up told them, "I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be working on my goals. I want to hit the gym Saturday mornings, and I don't really, I'm not gonna go, right? I don't really like going to bars, right?" And I didn't think it was a big deal. I was being like completely honest with him, but he ended up like getting really angry with me. Like I could see it in his face. He was so pissed. Like I was just like, "Oh shoot, he's actually mad." And he was like, if you don't show up, I'm gonna be mad at you, right? And I just looked at him and I was just like, "You have no right to be mad at me." And then he like calmed down and he realized, "Oh yeah, yeah." He calmed down, everything like cooled off after that. But it was just like, I don't want to say like, but it was just it was kind of childish, right? It was very like it just showed he lacked a control of his emotions, right? Like it also showed me that he felt entitled to my time, right? But the moral effect, right? I reflected back at him that he is acting ridiculous, right? He's trying to like I exposed what he was trying to do to me, like his manipulation. I exposed it in the public, and that's why he calmed down, right? This is very good to be aware of, right? All right, and then the fourth one, the last one, this is the hallucinatory effect, right? So mirrors are tremendously deceptive, for they create a sense that you are looking at the real world. Actually, though, you are only staring at the piece of glass, which, as everyone knows, cannot show the world exactly as it is. Everything in a mirror is reversed, right? So this is the one that I'm like kind of this is the one that kind of confused me. So based on my understanding of this, right? So this mirror effect, right? The hallucinatory effect is really about you kind of mimic someone, right? Mimic someone's behavior, and you make it obvious that it's being like it's ridiculous. So I'm trying to dummy technique. So I would say the best way to describe this, right? I'm telling you, I used to have like a bad circle of people, but I had this one friend who once told me. I mean, who I remember I made a suggestion. We were at a trip together. It was a group of us. Remember, I made a suggestion to the group. I was like, "Oh, we should probably." I didn't make a suggestion. I said we should probably go back soon, because we got to go somewhere in the morning, right? And this is like we were out drinking. He laughed and he said, "No," right? And the way he said it was like condescending. It was very condescending. Like it was meant to like humiliate me, right? That type of laugh and no in front of everyone. So the way I responded is, first of all, I thought it was ridiculous, right? Because I knew what was happening, right? I knew there was already tension. So what I did is I freaking started walking away. I laughed. I laughed. I was just like, don't go then. And little that I knew, that escalated. That actually fucking pissed him off. That made him angry. He said, "Stop laughing!" Right? Like that. And that tells me right there, that's an example of the hallucinatory effect because I basically mimicked his behavior back at him. Like exactly how it was, right? Like he acted condescending, laughed. So what I did, I also acted condescending and laughed, right? Because I found it ridiculous. And I kind of indicated that to the group. And I think that's why that made him angry. And that's how the hallucinatory effect is used, right? So that's for the Law 44 mirror effect, right? And so Law 45, right, is preach the need for change, but never reform to too much at once, right? And I'll read the first sentence. Everyone understands the need for change in the abstract, but on a day-to-day level, people are creatures of habit. Too much innovation is traumatic and will lead to revolt, right? So that's enough to know. And this makes a lot of sense. Stuff like this has overthrown leaders, right? Stuff like this this happens more often than you think it does. This happens like all the time, right? You just don't notice it. You don't pay attention to it, right? And it might have impacted you and you didn't even realize it, right? But this is part of human nature. Humans are creatures of habit, right? Humans don't like to change, right? Too much. Humans may like change, but not too much change, right? So the best way to handle something like this, right, is to, if you need to change something, right? Say you have a business, right? And you have a team of employees, you have a team of people, right? Instead of trying to say you want to change your system, right? You want to put a better system in so you can make more money, right? So you can make more money and you can execute more client and so you can scale, do whatever, right? You want to really improve that. So instead of making a drastic change which might piss off your team, some of them might even quit, some of them might even um like be very like upset with you, be difficult with you, stuff like that. What you need to do is make a small improvement. Maybe you change one little thing in the system and you frame it as an improvement. And then the team gets it. They're like, "Oh yeah, like you're right, that does need to get improved." And then maybe a few months later you're like, "Oh, let's improve this as well." So then a team's learning another new thing, another small little thing, and over a period of time, you've changed the entire system, right? And maybe it took longer than usually did, but you ended up changing it, and no one noticed, no one was pissed about it because it happened so gradually, right? And it's the same with like your old social circle, right? If you if you were like maybe you were the joke of the group, right? Maybe you used to be out of shape, whatever it is, and maybe you decide I don't want to be out of shape anymore. I don't want to be the fat guy that everyone makes fun of in the group, right? So you decide to change that. Maybe one summer you go on a freaking cut. You go on a aggressive cut. You're not drinking alcohol. You're taking your fitness seriously, right? Then suddenly, like 6 months later, or even a year later, your old friends see you and you look like a completely different person, and they try to like put you in that role, and it just doesn't work. You're not accepting it, and then it just builds some sort of tension, right? Because people just naturally resist change. And this happens in all aspects of life. This is just a human nature, human psychology thing, because humans don't like to change too much, and they don't like to change their point of view too much. Just remember that, right? So I'm gonna leave it at that. Those are the two laws that I just wanted to talk about. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm gonna keep creating more content. Subscribe and take care.